Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is lesson 24 out of 84 lessons that we're going to be having together. And today we're talking about a topic that I really enjoy, that I think is probably one of the best topics that we can do in the radio space. And that topic is called features. It is fun, it is exciting, and I think you're going to have the time of your life while we go through it today. So let's get into it. Features can also be called benchmarks. They can be broadly described as content pieces that happen at the same time on a daily or weekly basis. Features have the following two main purposes: to create a mini brand within a show that can be easily recognized and with which audiences become familiar, to create a tune-in moment which listeners add the feature to their list of daily appointments. This created a pattern of repeat listening, which drives time spent listening and ratings. Now, I want to give you a great example of a feature that has been quite timeless in the radio space. We'll go through this content and then we'll go through this incredible feature that I think is worthy to be spoken about. Features are, metaphorically speaking, castings or containers for strong, relatable, character-based and entertaining content. Listeners want to be entertained, and the feature, if entertaining, will create a mini brand and will get listeners coming back daily to listen. According to Tracy Johnson, there are attributes of a successful feature. It needs to be fun to do and to listen to. It needs to have longevity and be sustainable. It needs to be a good fit for the presenter or the team. There needs to be demand for the feature. I'll come back with a strong feature in a bit when it comes to what it's supposed to have, the characteristics rather that it's supposed to have. If the feature can fulfill all these criteria, then the feature is probably going to work for a show. Look for a game or informational or funny content pieces that are based largely in storytelling. Features need to be scheduled regularly. Be careful of having too many features in a show. Top rated shows have a balance of consistency as well as unpredictability. Use the following checklist of questions to help spark creativity in this respect. Check preparation sheets for the previous day. They could be good callers that can be used to create content. Compile a mind map of the audience. Note what is topical, relevant, and local to listeners. Find out what is going on in the lives of the cast of your show. Personal stories that will relate to listeners could work very well. Create a clash of context by putting a character in a situation where they don't belong and exaggerate the situation for comic effect. There are multiple opportunities for interesting stories in features. Lane suggests that you do one of some of the following: set up and resolve conflict, address or create dilemma, resolve something with an interactive topic, go on a quest or a mission, write a comedy sketch, create a top 5 list on a topical story, introduce a new interactive game, include audio in most of the content segments. Book a guest who is relevant to the audience of the show. Book an expert to shed light on an issue or create a viral video. Now, on this page are a list of features or a list of stories that are quite interesting, and I'm going to give you a second to decide whether you think that this is a good or a terrible feature. All right, so what I want you to do is to take a listen to all of them. They are quite long, if I could say so. So take a listen to them in your slides and pick up a few elements as to what makes this feature great. What I also want you to do is to create a feature, right, for yourself that we can share in class. And the class can give you feedback as to whether they think that feature is fantastic or not. What I want to do now is to go back to some points that make a really great feature And I get excited with this feature because I think it is probably one of the most iconic features that exist, having worked quite closely with the feature as well. All right, so it says that according to Tracy Johnson, these are the attributes of a successful feature. It needs to be fun to do and to listen to. It needs to have longevity and be sustainable. It needs to be a good fit for the presenter or the team, and there needs to be demand for the feature. Now, this feature that I'm raving about for me is called, drum roll please, classic or not. Now, I really love this feature because I do believe that it really is a mini brand by itself, and it really does carry that. And I think it is strong. I think it is relatable, especially when it comes to its audience. So let's look at this feature and see if it ticks these attributes of a successful feature. It needs to be fun to do and to listen to. Having worked with the presenters, I know they love the feature, classic or not, but I can really tell from the listeners that they really enjoy this, because what the feature is you need to select a song that is 10 years and older, right? So we relate to it because 10 years ago, when we were much younger, there were certain songs that we sang, couldn't necessarily probably understand what they meant at the time, but it brings some level of nostalgia. So as a listener, I love this feature. It needs to have longevity and be sustainable. Why this feature, I believe, has longevity and is sustainable is because every year is another year added to the feature. Remember, the feature says the song needs to be 10 years and older. So as the years go by, the catalog of songs that we can select from becomes more and more vast. So we can never really run out of songs that we think are a classic or not. It needs to be a good fit for the presenter or the team. When you look at Anele and the club, their experience in radio spans through many, many decades. So they definitely relate to classic or not. They've heard some of these songs while they were still starting out in radio up until today. So I think it is a fantastic fit for the presenters. There needs to be demand for this feature. I definitely think there is demand. When I was still working there, we used to have listeners, call in, send a WhatsApp saying, I really think we should consider this as a classic or not. And it really does work as a feature. And the reason why I think that it is strong, it is relatable, and really is a mini brand on its own is when I was still starting out at 947, they had a classic or not party at Billy the Bums. And it brought out so many people that are listeners to classic or not. And we had so many DJs at 947 really play classic sets in their mixes. And it really did carry a strong brand on its own outside of brand Anele and the club. And I think that if you are going to come up with a feature, this becomes an important checklist, because if it doesn't have sustainability or longevity, if the feature is not fun, if it's not relatable to the presenter, or the listeners aren't necessarily demanding it, then it really does become a futile feature. So when you do come up with your features, I'm going to need you to consider this checklist, because it does become quite important. A lot of people come up with features, and sometimes it could be a sustainable feature, but not for you to necessarily do it every day. Classic or not, on Anna in the Club plays every day, but you could have a feature that only features once a week. Right. So if you look at the show that I currently work on now, we have a feature called Money Moves, where we chat about money issues surrounding young people. And that happens every single Monday, where we bring in a financial expert to let us know what is happening. On Wednesdays, we've got a feature called Fit Check. This is where we bring in fitness experts, from nutritionists to personal trainers to lawyers, to discuss even contracts. And once a week, we dissect a topic in the fitness space. So it doesn't necessarily have to be every day. It could be once a week for it to carry strength and for it to be a content piece of longevity. So features for me are really important when it comes to a show. I do believe, though, that a show needs to have a little bit of features as well as a little bit of unpredictability. You can't have a show fully stacked with features, because people do want to have conversations. People do want to be surprised by some of the content. So I do believe that one feature in an hour, in my opinion, would work perfectly, while the other pieces of the hour could consist of content pieces or things that have happened around the world or in South Africa etc. So I think a good balance is really important. But features are there because people will wait specifically to listen to a feature. It's appointment listening. They also would know that if classic or not is playing at a certain time, I need to be somewhere in the day, right? And features like classic or not really do boost the listener's mood. It makes them feel that they're a part of a community because listeners will send in voice notes to say whether they think a song is a classic or not. And the reason why I think it is such a great feature is whether you know the song or not, you can decide on the spot whether you think this song is a classic or not, right? Based on the beat or the lyrics, you could say, oh, I really like this song, even though I've never heard it. And you could send a voice note saying that you think that the song is a classic. Or you could be hearing it for the first time and you could think, oh my goodness, this is such an awful song. Why would Anele or Frankie, Temekile or Cindy even think of selecting the song, right? And it just creates such great banter amongst the team. It creates great banter amongst the listeners. And really, you need to be sending in your voice notes quickly because as soon as the song ends, when we come back, all the voice notes are edited and they are played out. Right, so Anila would then ask the rest of the team whether they think a song is a classic or not. They could do a little bit of a chit chat around the song and why the certain character in the team had selected the song. And as soon as they're done with that conversation, then they will play the responses from the listeners to say whether they think it's a classic or not. And they'll either give it a stamp or approval, or they'll just say, nah, not a classic, and play the buzzer, and then it's out. So again, a really great feature that I enjoy, that I think has got longevity, and I think is really one of the coolest features that we have out there, especially for a music station. It is a music feature, so I think it makes so much sense. So those are features. I hope you come up with a great one. Bring it in class, and let's dissect and see how we can scrutinize and help you improve your feature. Otherwise, if you have any questions, make sure to send me an email to nonhlanhla@boston.co.za. Alternatively, you can hit me up on our Radio 2 WhatsApp group. Otherwise, I'm out for now.